The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome, everybody. This is Renee Jeffries Heil, the chair of the Exercises Medicine on Campus Committee. We're going to get started in a few minutes. We're just waiting for a few more people to hop on board. Thank you guys all for taking time out of your day for this webinar, and we'll get back to you in a moment. Okay, I think we're going to get started now. We are joined by two amazing presenters that are going to share with you their challenges, their successes, their experiences with implementing an Exercises Medicine on Campus program. They're each going to speak, and then we're going to have some time at the end for us to talk about with some Q&A. So if you have questions, feel free to type them into the message bar on the right-hand side of your screen, and we can go from there. We have Kristen Legale, who's going to start, and then she's going to be followed by Carrie Davison. So I'm going to let Dr. Legale take it from here. And thank you, guys.
Well, hello, everyone. Thanks for attending. So I'm Kristen Legale, and I am the supervisor of the Exercises Medicine on Campus program at Illinois State University. So I wanted to start off by telling you a little bit about our university. We have just over 20,000 students, and we have a student health services and a student counseling services, which are separate. We have a health promotion and wellness office and a campus recreation / student fitness center. All those are part of student affairs, and they call themselves the wellness cluster. There's also a kinesiology department here on campus, and that's what I'm part of. It's the School of Kinesiology and Recreation, and we're the academic side. We share a building with the Health Promotion and Wellness Office, and we are actually attached to the Student Fitness Center with a walkway, and Student Health and Counseling Services are in a different building. There's a little bit of crossover, but Health Promotion and Wellness primarily focuses on faculty and staff, and campus recreation primarily focuses on students who can use the campus recreation facility for free, whereas faculty and staff pay to use our campus recreation facility. There we go. So before we had Exercises Medicine on campus, you've probably heard this before, I've heard it from other campuses as well, we were siloed. And kinesiology and recreation, I would say, was specifically siloed, so that's us there on the right. Because we weren't part of student affairs. So we were all doing our separate things, and I think doing it well, but we had a shared mission of improving physical activity opportunities on campus. And so that was something that we really wanted to address as we brought Exercises Medicine on campus to campus. So like I just said, one thing that we really thought we wanted to do was to increase the interaction, to get kinesiology more involved with the wellness groups and the physical activity opportunities that were happening on campus. But as a faculty in kinesiology, we had also talked about getting our students more engaged in the physical activity opportunities on campus. And with Exercises Medicine on campus, I had just started on the Exercises Medicine on Campus committee with ACSM, and I really saw that as a good way to really sell the cohesive approach to physical activity on campus. And so I started a team. These were our original team members at Illinois State University. And we followed the action guide. That's why I have that little picture down there on the right, with a supervisor, a health fitness professional, a healthcare professional, and students. And at the time, everybody was from kinesiology except for the MD from Student Health Services, but we did have advisory members from both campus recreation and health promotion and wellness. And since our team has evolved, we've actually had those individuals on our team as formal members. So early on, when Exercises Medicine started at Illinois State University, we thought we would just serve as a clearinghouse for the activities that were already occurring. And so we started off by compiling a list of the activities that were going on campus, and some of those are listed here. and starting to spread the word about that. We really didn't feel like we needed to reinvent the wheel. And so that's a picture of me early on, not reinventing the wheel. Little thumbs up there. But as I said a minute ago, one of the things that we as a campus really wanted to do, as a department specifically, kinesiology, was to engage our students with the campus community members and in more physical activity on campus. And so we did add a few activities in addition to what was already going on in the early days of our Exercises Medicine on Campus program. You see our pill bottle there on the left-hand side, and that's kind of what we've become known for on campus, is our pill bottle pop-ups. We stuff those with a short exercise prescription, like do 10 squats or jump rope for 30 seconds. And then we pop up around campus and we accost passerby and ask them to take their exercise medicine with us. We always have a staff member work with the individual so they don't feel like they're standing there doing it on their own. And of course, that provides a great way for our students to interact with the campus community, to show them how to do correct form with a squat, to show them how to use a piece of exercise equipment that they've never used before. We bring out slide boards, Bosu balls, kettlebells, that kind of thing. So these activities really were a great way for us to engage students a little bit more. We've also developed an Exercises Medicine on Campus registered student organization, which has been great for tapping into some of the funding available through Student Government Association, as well as giving us access to some of the activities and marketing on campus that you only get access to if you are a registered student organization. So we set that up, and then we also presented around campus about Exercises Medicine on Campus. We had the president proclaim Exercises Medicine on Campus month in October, and we participated in the mascot challenge. So those were some of the new things that we added early on, and some of the things that got a silver level recognition in I guess that was our first year of implementation. But there was also an interest in engaging more. I said, I mentioned with the other wellness groups on campus, we wanted to be part of the wellness cluster. And of course, as part of Exercises Medicine on Campus, we also wanted to establish that referral program, get our student health services assessing physical activity as a vital sign, and having them refer clients to fitness professionals. So in our conversations with our healthcare professionals, they indicated a need for some private, individualized exercise programming for clients that had certain conditions or were in certain situations where physical activity would be beneficial, but they were less likely to go to campus recreation to perform that physical activity. And so this is really where we saw our niche. Kinesiology had a private space that we could do training in, and we had the expertise with faculty and students to work with this population. I'm a certified exercise specialist through ACSM. And so we thought, well, this is where we might really be able to contribute to the physical activity on campus. So our referral program, just going to give you a little bit of rundown of what it looks like now. It starts at either student health or student counseling. We have about 50% coming from both places, maybe a little bit more coming from student health. 50% or a little bit more of our clients are referred from student health and the rest from student counseling services. And they are referred to me in the School of Kinesiology and Recreation. And then we also have the ability to connect back with them using either the electronic medical system, which happens to be point and click here at ISU. So we're on the EMS and we can communicate back and forth directly with student health services that way. Or with student counseling services who does not use that system, we can communicate with them obviously via email or phone. We usually do it via phone though for privacy reasons, which is something I'll actually talk about here in a second. We get referrals for students only. Right now it's only students, not faculty, staff, for the mental and physical conditions that I mentioned on the last slide, but also students who have low physical activity levels. I started to say simply low physical activity levels. It's not simple, I know. So we get referrals for all of those types of clients. And then we ultimately move our clients from kinesiology and recreation to campus recreation, which I call phase 2 of our referral program, and kinesiology is phase 1. So a little bit more here about phase one, the kinesiology side of this. One of our major goals in KNR, and one of the things that we have been able to offer, is to reduce as many barriers as possible for our clients in terms of getting them physically active. So you see a few things here that are in bold, and those are some of the items that we've tried to use to reduce barriers to physical activity. So when we get a referral, we perform an intake session with that client, and that actually occurs over at Student Health Services. So we go to them in a place that they are familiar with, rather than having them come to us. And we'll actually physically walk them over to this space to make them more comfortable if that's something that they want. During the intake session, we do a medical history form. We assess barriers and goals and motivators with a questionnaire. And in that questionnaire, we also assess some specifics about the individual that will influence their exercise program, like, would you rather have a male trainer or a female trainer? Would you rather exercise in a private room or group, or would you rather bring a friend with you? And so we take that information in the intake session and use it to develop the exercise program for that client. Our program is 8 weeks with a little flexibility, 2 times a week. It is free and it is private. So it's one-on-one personal training within those guidelines. We do offer some open lab hours and small group sessions, which are optional for the clients. And we are just starting to incorporate health coaching and motivational interviewing. It's not perfectly set, but that's something that the piece we're really working on, and we think is really important for these clients, probably any client. And we have optional fitness assessments. We don't require fitness assessments. We don't regularly do them, but if a client is interested, we can make that happen. So that's phase one. And then the major goal, oh, I'm sorry, before I move on, I wanted to show you our space. So this is our private space in the School of Kinesiology and Recreation. On the left and the right, it's the same room. It's our Exercise Physiology Fit Lab, and it's set up as a mini gym. And so just one client and one trainer in there during the private sessions. But we do use that space too for teaching and research. And so sometimes there's conflicts and we can't get in that room. So we also set up a small space, I know it's really hard to see, in the back of our sports psychology lab, with a cable machine and weights and mats. And we also have an adjacent room with cardiovascular equipment that we can use kind of as an overflow space for private training. So here's where I was going a second ago, talk a little bit about phase 2 of our referral program. Ultimately, what we'd like to do with our clients is get them to a place within that first 8 weeks where they are comfortable being physically active in other settings. Whether it's self-led physical activity or whether it's supervised physical activity. So we have used campus recreation as what I call our transition site, sort of our phase 2. And the way that we've been making this work is at the 6-week mark, we administer another questionnaire for our clients. We ask them some of the same questions we did in the intake session, but we also ask them questions about what would make them most likely to continue physical activity. Is it working with your current trainer? Is it staying in a private space? Is it working with a friend? Those kind of questions. And we use that information to try to pair our client with a trainer from campus recreation. So myself and the personal trainer coordinator over in campus recreation work together to find a trainer that we think will work with the client. Those trainers actually go through some specific training, which I'll talk about here in a second. And once we find a trainer that we think will work, we have that trainer come over at about the 6-week mark and attend a session with the client and the current trainer, sort of as a meet and a greet to see, and also to see what's going on in that session. And then around the 6-week mark, we also do a campus recreation orientation where we take the client over, show them what's available, show them how to use equipment. And then at the 8-week point, the end of phase 1, is when we try to pair them with that campus rec trainer. And campus recreation has agreed to offer free training sessions for a period of time where the trainer gets paid and the client doesn't have to pay. So here's where I start talking about some of the challenges that we've had with implementation. We certainly have had other challenges, but I'll try to focus on the ones to deal with implementing the program. And resources obviously are a big one. I think we've been lucky. We've had people who are really interested in this program and have really been supportive. Funding continues to be an issue though, and one way we've gotten around that, I won't say we've gotten around it, but one way we've obtained some funding, as I mentioned earlier, is through our Student Government Association. And we do have to be a registered student organization to tap into those funds, but annually they offer funds that RSOs can apply for events or giveaways. You can see Reggie there in the picture holding an orange exercise band. Those were exercise bands that we obtained using student government funding that we applied for. Staffing is clearly an issue, especially for the way we have our program set up. Before we were doing a referral program, it was primarily student volunteers and me. That's what it was. When we started doing the referral program, we realized though that we were going to need consistency and regular trainers. And so my department was willing to fund an initial GA. We had one GA, it was half-time, 10 hours, to be the trainer for clients. And I was still doing the admin side of it. And we quickly found that that wasn't not going to be enough. We average about 25 new clients a semester, and so one 10-hour GA really wasn't cutting it. And so we went to Student Health and asked if they would be willing to fund a GA, and they agreed. So we got a second GA, so we had 20 hours per week, and we quickly outgrew that as well. And somehow I managed to convince my department to fund a third GA, and this has been the first semester that we've had a third GA. So I think we're very lucky to have that. It's still not enough for what we're trying to do. And so the other place that I try to recruit for staffing is kinesiology students for sure. I try to get interns, both senior and junior interns when I can, and I am actively recruiting students all the time to do independent studies with me. Now we do get to an issue where sometimes those students aren't at a place where they're ready to be trainers, but they can certainly help with the research, the admin side. They help with social media, they can lead group sessions or even part of group sessions. And so I find that to be very useful as well. So this next slide kind of continues along with that. One of the challenges was, for me anyway, was acting as a supervisor and the administrative piece of it. Now I really wanted to do this. I was very motivated to be a part of this and to bring this to our campus. I was on the Exercises Medicine on Campus Committee nationally. And I really did feel strongly that this was going to be a good way to engage our students more on campus and again, to get more interactive with the rest of the wellness activities on campus. Also, I was at the right place in my career. I was tenured, I was a full professor. And so I had a little bit more room to be flexible, I think, in some of the activities I chose. But early on in the implementation, the activities that I was doing, A, took a lot of work, and B, were service activities. And so viewed maybe a little less strongly for annual review. We have a big T, oh, I got a message that says we're experiencing difficulties. I hope we're doing okay. We have big T, big R, and little s here, and that initial implementation time really was a big S. And so I wonder, you know, as faculty get involved in this, and I think it's really important to get kinesiology departments involved in this, if that could be a challenge for faculty members, simply because a lot of the activity, at least early on, is service related. However, I do want to mention kind of how I've worked teaching and research into the program. I do a lot of mentoring. I do a lot of independent studies with students, and I oversee a lot of internships, and that's really great teaching, you know, and it's one-on-one, and it's looked at least at ISU fondly. I also have chaired one thesis so far that's using Exercises Medicine on campus related data. And of course that transfers over to the research side as well. And the questionnaire data that we're collecting, we're using for research. We've presented some of that data already at a national ACSM meeting and hope to present some more again at the ACSM meeting coming up in Orlando. We've presented it at internal symposia. So there's definitely been an opportunity for both teaching and research pieces, even though initially it started off as pretty heavy service. Another challenge here, at least for us, client-related challenges, was figuring out all the HIPAA guidelines and making sure that we were providing the clients with the correct privacy and confidentiality. So the way we up dealing with this was that any of my staff that interact with an Exercises Medicine on Campus client has to go through the same HIPAA training that a student health services staff member goes through. So that's just the first thing we do with a staff member when they come on board, is we put them through that training and they have to sign a confidentiality agreement. So that might be something that comes up for other schools as they're implementing programs, especially referral programs. Along with that, talking a little bit about the training, we also had some concerns about who it was that was interacting with our clients and the experience that that staff had. So my GAs all have undergraduate degrees in exercise science and certifications, but we were also bringing on campus recreation trainers for phase 2. We wanted to make sure they had the correct experience and background to provide our clients with an adequate exercise experience so that they would continue to be physically active. We don't want negative physical activity experiences. So I put together this course. It's using our online teaching platform. For us, it's called ReggieNet. And this is a course that anybody that interacts with an Exercises Medicine on Campus client has to complete. So there's several modules you can see over there on the left, and there's a quiz associated with each module, and the student has to complete and pass those quizzes in order to be considered somebody that can work with our Exercises Medicine on Campus clients. So we have an Exercises Medicine on Campus module, and that's just background and history on the program. You see the EIMOC privacy and confidentiality module, that's the HIPAA training. We have a sensitivity training module, and that was actually put together for me by one of our therapists in student counseling services with tips on how to work with clients who have conditions like anxiety or depression. Our behavioral consideration module was put together by our exercise and sports psych faculty here. And then we have a selling physical activity module, which gets the students and people interacting with the clients to think a little bit about how we really are selling physical activity. Is it improved mood and energy in addition to weight loss? Just to give them some more, kind of things to think about as they work with these particular clients, especially. And then this is my last challenge I think that I have here. This was a concern early on, and it continues to be a concern. We were initially worried as we're implementing this referral program with training that people that were already doing those kinds of activities on campus would feel like we were stepping on their toes, and that's not what we wanted. We wanted happy toes. And so one of the ways we dealt with this, I think that the idea of Exercises Medicine on Campus was helpful because, it's this national program that's calling on us to connect health services with fitness professionals. And so when you bring that to the table and you say, hey, what is it that we need as in the various groups, and how can I make your life easier, or how can we make your job easier while still providing this additional awesome opportunity for students and other campus community members? That seemed to really help here. It seemed to open everybody's mind and get everybody willing to work together as a group. So I think if you can approach it as, hey, what can we do to help you? How can we make your life easier? We're looking to get involved. We don't want to make things harder. We actually want to make things easier. And that seemed to work really well for us. Now, I'll also admit we had a lot of people on campus who were really energetic and really interested in the program and willing to work on it together, which never hurts. But I think if you have somebody who's a little bit unsure, if you can sell it as, listen, I want to make your life easier, and you can work together to make that happen, that's certainly helpful. And so that's where I'm going to leave you. I'm going to leave you here with Max. He's my unofficial, official Exercises Medicine on Campus mascot, and you can tell that because he has a t-shirt. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much. That was amazing. And so now we're going to turn it over to Carrie Davison and let her pick up and share her experiences at University of Kentucky.
All right. Thank you for listening in today with our ACSM Exercises Medicine on Campus. So I sit in a little bit different position than Kristen does. And so I work for our health and wellness program. So we do not work with students. We are part of the benefits package here for UK employees, retirees, and spouses. And so we already have quite a bit of programming set up that Exercises Medicine is conducive to. And so I'm gonna talk to you about that. But also what is happening is we are in a little bit different place as well, because we are in the middle of implementation. So I can tell you the steps that we've taken so far, where we are in this process, and where we are hoping for this to go, and then maybe some next steps after that. So that's kind of the agenda. Excuse me. That's kind of the agenda of what I'm going to be talking about for today. So, as I said, we are here on the University of Kentucky's campus, where we have also our UK healthcare campus. We are such a large university here that we have a self-funded health plan. So if you're a UK employee and you're going to buy into the benefits program here as an employee, then we have our own self-funded health plan. So what we try to do is we try to keep those costs low for the employees, and so that's where the wellness program comes in. We then try to provide programming services that help keep people well so that they aren't making a claim against that health plan. So we have quite a large population that we are dealing with. In total, at this moment, we have about 30,000 potential people that we could affect with any of our programming. So with that, we also have quite a large team of health and wellness professionals here. So I'm not sure how familiar the listeners are today with wellness programming, worksite wellness, or employee wellness programs, but we have a full-time staff of 12, which is quite large. So we have 2 registered dietitians, 2 health coaches, 2 exercise physiologists. One is me, and then I have another person I've just hired full-time in the last 6 months. And then we also have some wellness specialists that go along, and then we also have a communications, technology, and marketing person. So we are quite large for what's considered a wellness program or worksite wellness program. So part of our wellness specialists, one of his jobs is to be the physician liaison. So as I mentioned, within UK Healthcare, we have several clinics on campus, off campus, all over the state of Kentucky. And so our physician liaison, part of his job is to get in those clinics and to make referrals between the providers and all of our programs. So not just exercise, but for nutrition, for health coaching, for tobacco cessation, for all sorts of things. So that's one thing that puts us at a good place to start Exercises Medicine, because we already have that referral process in place with several clinics. The other thing is that clinic-wide, no matter where they are, if they're part of UK Healthcare, then the EMR, the electronic medical record, which we call an AEHR, that is network-wide, and so everybody's functioning off the same AEHR. And so part of the physician liaison job is to get into the clinics, educate the providers on our services, and navigate through the AEHR with them to show them how to refer to us through the AEHR. Now, the way that works right now is only our physician liaison has access to get into the AEHR. So he then pulls out those referrals and then divvies them up to the different professionals on our team. With that, I'm going to sort of set you up here for how we are currently working. We also have 2 fitness facilities on campus. Now, that is my main job as an exercise physiologist, as our fitness manager, is to oversee daily operations of these 2 employee-dedicated fitness facilities, as well as our group fitness program. We do step challenges, all sorts of physical activity programming. That's my job. Now, part of that fitness facility and membership in our fitness facility for our employees is we offer a free training session. It's a one-and-done training session. It's not required. Anybody can do it. They sit down with one of my GAs or one of my certified trainers and have a 1-hour session. So they talk about goals, they talk about history, they talk about all those things. They set them up a program, take them through it, and then the point is to educate that person, so that person can then move forward on their own. They can always come back. We can always do another one. They can always change it, but that's a free service that we already offer. Another free service that we already offer to all of our population, not just our fitness members, is an exercise consult. And that is usually an hour in the office with me or my other exercise physiologist. And that is more about talking about fitness goals and barriers and making strategies to work exercise into their life, whatever that might look like. And that can take about 100 different directions. If they have a condition, if they've just been released from a physical therapist or from a doctor, or they have a chronic condition, maybe they're pregnant, all sorts of things. That can look very different for lots of different people. So those are the things that we already have in place. So whenever I started serving on the ACSM Exercises Medicine Committee for on campus, it seemed a pretty easy transition to move into exercises medicine. So what I have done so far, and I'll tell you where I am in this process as we move along, what I have done so far is decided to make a pilot with just one of those clinics. So we have one clinic in particular where we, and when I say we, I mean our health and wellness program, our physician liaison, he is physically in that clinic 1 or 2 days a week. And so anybody who comes in for a well visit, so it's a regular checkup, it's not a sick visit like, oh, I have strep throat, I'm going to go to the doctor. It's a well visit. Anybody who comes in, then he's there to make a warm handoff. So the provider can say, great, your checkup looks good. Why don't you go over here and talk to health and wellness about tobacco cessation or weight loss or exercise. And so they're physically there and they can get them started in whatever program they might want to do right then and there. So it made it a pretty much a no-brainer, and it was a smart choice to start with that clinic because we already are there. We already have a good relationship with those providers and the other staff that work there in that clinic. So the other part of this pilot was to create some buy-in. So I'm an exercise physiologist. I've been doing fitness for almost 2 decades now, and so it's easy for me to understand the importance and to see where this can go. My supervisor's the same way. She is in health and wellness, and so this is easy for her to do. So what we had to do really is to get some buy-in and support from the clinic manager. And so as I said, with this particular clinic, we already are there. We already have that good relationship. So that was a pretty easy win, was to get that buy-in and support. The next step, and this is sort of where we are in process right now, is to get our questions, physical activity as a vital sign, is to get those two things into the AEHR so that the providers or the nurses can ask those questions when somebody does come in for that well visit. And so one thing that we had to think about is when we met with the clinic manager, she challenged us to say, look, our techs already ask 20 questions besides taking all the vitals. And so for them to ask 2 more questions, how many days per week do you exercise? And how long do you exercise? So 30 minutes. To see if we're getting to that 150 minutes per week mark is not going to happen. It's going to take too long. They're going to have to do the math in their head, and it's not going to happen. So if you can get it down to 1 question, then we can probably get that into their question set and get it into the AEHR. So that was pretty mind-blowing, I suppose, from my point of view, where I want to know, is that 30 minutes a day? Is that spread out? Are they doing that every day? But nevertheless, I wanted to get it in there. We want them to ask that question. We want to be able to have that data. So what we ended up asking is, do you exercise 2.5 hours in a week? At least 2.5 hours in a week. Yes or no? And so one thing that we considered was putting in ranges of how many minutes do you exercise, like 0 to 30, 30 to 90, 90 to 120. But what we had to consider is how that data came out on the back side. And so for purposes of the time it takes for the tech to ask the question and for the provider to look at the answer and decide whether or not he or she wants to make that referral, we decided to go with a yes/no. That way it's a toggle. So they didn't have to input anything, so that's less keystrokes. They just had to say yes or no on your screen, and so it's just a toggle. That also gives us data points of reference. So when I go in for my annual checkup this year and I've said no to that question, I don't get that much exercise, they might refer me to exercises medicine. When I come in next year and I say yes, then they said then that answer changes, and I can see then the difference. That makes a very clear, definitive data point. So that's something that we did. The other thing is we had to determine where that's going to be located in the AEHR. So we, as I mentioned, already have wellness in our AEHR, and our physician liaison, that's part of his job, is to go into the clinics, educate the providers on where that referral is. And so it was pretty simple in this process to add it just for this clinic into the place that they're already used to going to make referrals to the health and wellness program. So those were pretty easy things to do once we sort of thought through that. So the next thing that, and this is where we're getting these things scheduled right now, this is where we are in our process, is to meet with the providers at this particular clinic. And so we need to educate them on the purpose of exercise as medicine and what exercise as medicine is, in case they're unfamiliar. Educate them on the 2 questions, why we're asking the 2 questions, what these 2 questions are getting at as far as physical activity as a vital sign, and then the resources that we're going to be providing, or the resources to which they're going to be referring, I should say. And then all they have to do is see if they've answered yes or no, and then refer those people to exercise as medicine. So that was a pretty easy transition to make, and the providers are already on a good term. So this is going to be the next step, and I feel like is going to be a win. I don't think this is going to be a hard one. So our final step here is going to be implementation. And so, like I said, we already have facilities. We already have training sessions in place. We already have consults in place. And so once we get those referrals to us for exercise as medicine from our pilot clinic, then we will be implementing a protocol. And this is probably going to be tweaked as time goes by, I would imagine. Right now, it's a 2 to 3 step protocol of an assessment to see what the needs are. It's going to look different for every person, as you might imagine. If the person needs weight loss, or as opposed to a person who has very low mobility, those are going to be very different protocols. So we're going to look at that as they come in, and those are going to be individualized. And then the great thing that I would like to point out here is that we are going to have the ability to pull those referrals straight from the AEHR. And when I say we, I mean the exercise physiologists. We're going to be able to pull those straight out. And so then once we're done, then we can annotate back into the AEHR. So the provider can then see that their patient did come in or chose not to come in, or is making whatever progress that they're making. So we can make notes. We can put annotations back into their medical record for the provider to see. And so what it does in essence for us is create sort of a care team of provider, exercise physiologist, and then because we are part of wellness, we have our health coaches, we have our dietitians. So if we need to pull them in as well, then that's going to be an easy thing to do. We can get everybody involved, and now they've got a more holistic look at their health. They've got people who are professionals in all of those areas in order to get their health back on track where they want it to be. So some of the challenges and successes that we have had is selling it up, right? So selling it on up the line. I know the importance of physical activity. My supervisor knows the importance of physical activity. Everyone on the challenge, on the successes side, everyone believes that physical activity is good for us for the most part. It's just creating the buy-in. And so what we've found for that is if I was able to map that out and say, we're going to go from step 1 to step 2 to step 3 to step 4, this is what it's going to look like. This are the action items that I'm going to do. You don't really have to do anything except say, okay, and put your name behind it and support it. Then they're more likely to say, okay, great. I don't have to do the work. I believe in the mission. You're going to do the work. All I got to do is support it. Then they're going to be on board with that. The next one was putting it into the AEHR. And so that is a little bit more of a big challenge, just because I mentioned UK Healthcare is a pretty big conglomeration. And so right now we are piloting, we've got that in one clinic specific AEHR. Depending what our results are of this pilot, then to get that across the board and then to start educating all of those providers on what it is, why it's there, and how to refer into it. That's going to be a much bigger challenge coming down the road than just doing this with one clinic as a pilot. Operationalizing, that's kind of my forte. That's kind of what I'm good at. So getting access to the systems that we need to get access to, training my staff the way they need to be trained, training the providers and educating them the way that they need to be done. Those things are sort of the meat, I feel like. They have been a bit of a challenge just because I sort of have to anticipate the problems that are kind of come along before I've even educated myself on the AEHR. So becoming familiar with that, that's going to be a huge step, and that's going to go a long way. If you can educate yourself on what the EMR or the AEHR already looks like, how you want that data to come out, how you're going to get that referral into an easy place for those providers, those sort of things are going to go a long way into easing your way into into implementing exercise as medicine on your campus. And then another challenge that we have is eligibility. So as I mentioned, as part of human resources, part of the health and wellness program, we work with employees and their spouses, retirees and their spouses, but any patient can come to a UK healthcare clinic. They don't have to be just UK employee. It's statewide, and so anybody can go there. So we could get into a situation where a provider says, oh, we have a patient who needs exercise as medicine, but then when they get to me, they're not eligible for our program. And so I'm imagining moving on down the road that I'm going to want to be able to have some resources that are community resources for these people who are not eligible for our programs, who in fact do need exercise as medicine. Where can I send them, and where can I direct their energy so that they might have the fewer amount of barriers and more access? So those are some things that we've had as challenges, and some challenges that I see coming up down the road. As I mentioned in successes, most people believe that physical activity is good for us. We did have those prior relationships with the clinics, with the clinic manager. We already had prior programming in place with our fitness facilities, with our physician liaison, with our current referral system. And so because we already had these things in place, there was no money that had to be exchanged. We didn't have to obtain funding for staff because we were already here. We didn't have to obtain funding for facilities because we already have them. So we're just sort of layering on a program and that's already in place with facilities, with staff. Now, hopefully we can grow, get bigger, and that'll be a great problem to have. But so far, no money was exchanged, so that's been a good thing for us. Nobody had to obtain funding anywhere. We do have graduate assistants that work for us already, and most of them give me half of their 20 hours, so about 10 or 15 hours a week they spend for me in our fitness facilities anyway. And then I have part-time staff on top of that who are certified trainers who spend a good amount of time in those facilities for me anyway. And so if we do need to expand past me and the other full-time staff, then I feel like I've got qualified people at the ready who can take those people on. So so again, no money is going to be exchanged unless they just get more hours, in which case then we'll go down that road. But the things that I haven't gotten to yet, and the things that are to be determined, would be our evaluation criteria. What is going to make this pilot a successful pilot? What is going to determine if we take this out of all of UK healthcare clinics? And so one of those things is right now we know with our physician liaison and the work that he does and going to the clinics and getting those referrals, he does good work, but he's sort of a barrier between the patient and the expert. So between the patient and the dietitian, or the patient and the health coach, or the patient, they have to go through him. And so I think that sometimes can be a barrier, and so he can lose people along the way. So one of the ways that we are planning to overcome that is the professionals will have direct access to that AEHR, so we can go in there and see Dr. John Doe referred patient X to exercise as medicine. I will go and I will say, hey, patient, I'm your exercise person. Here's where we are. Your doctor said you needed to do this. Are you interested? Can we get you to take that first step and come in? And so I think that's going to be one of the ways that we are going to have a better follow-through rate in our referral processes in general. And then the next thing that I think we're going to want to look at is the change rate, as I mentioned, from time 1 to time 2. So when I come in for my annual checkup and see my provider in 2018, and I said, no, I don't exercise that much, they referred me to exercise as medicine, and I went through the protocol, I went through the program. Then when I go in 2019 for my well visit and my checkup, then I said, yeah, I do that. I exercise 150 minutes a week. Then I'm going to have that data to look at. So I am hoping to have some information like that, but although that is going to take me a year to get, but I'm hoping this pilot's going to provide that sort of data to support putting exercise as medicine into all the clinics through all the AHR. And then the percent of people who say yes versus the percent of people who say no. So right now, we know in general what the statistics look like on how many people in the United States get the recommended amount of exercise. We know in Kentucky how many people get the recommended amount of exercise. We know through some of the other data that we have collected in the wellness program how many of our particular population get the proper amount of exercise, and we also know that there's a lot of work to be done. And so Whether or not they're going to be honest when they answer that question with the tech that walks them into their room, that's going to be to be determined. But I'm hoping that we're going to see that percentage become a little bit more on the real side. And then sustainability. So like I said, we already have fitness facilities, we already have staffing, we don't need any funding. It's just a matter of making it happen. So it seems like an easy win as an easy step to implement exercise as medicine, but is it going to be sustainable throughout? That's a question that I don't know, and I'm not sure how we're going to measure that quite yet. So I'll be tapping into some of the other campuses already that have exercise as medicine implemented to see how it becomes sustainable. So those are some of the things that are to be determined for us as far as evaluation criteria. So thank you for listening in. I'm sure there are questions that are going to be coming up, and I am going to take myself off of the audio here so that we can understand what these questions might look like.
Thank you very much. I don't know about you guys, but every time I listen to what another program is doing with exercise as medicine, I get like, I have a whole list next to my computer here of things that I want to try with our own program. So thank you guys for your time with everything. So we're going to take some questions. If you have them, you can type them into the chat bar. Or if Lisa can see them, Lisa will read them to us. Perfect.
Great. All right, we have two questions from Brianna in Red Rocks, or at Red Rocks Community College, and these questions are both for Kristen. The first one is, how often are students allowed to receive the free 8-week program, or is it a one-time offer?
That's a good question. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure. Once they are in the Exercise as Medicine on Campus program, they're always considered an Exercise as Medicine on Campus member. And so they stay on my email list, and they continue to get those resources, and they continue to get the chance to come to open lab hours and small group training. So that's always an option for them. But once they have been through the 8 weeks, and this actually hasn't really come up yet, so it's really a good question. But so far, once they've been through the 8-week program and they move on, we haven't had any returns. And I guess I'm not entirely sure how we would deal with that. So I don't know that I have a perfect answer to the question, but I think the answer at this point is we would do everything we can to accommodate somebody that needed physical activity assistance.
Okay. Her other question is, are you willing to share the EIM quiz that you provide to student trainers? She loves the idea.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah, that's easy.
Okay. Those are our questions at the moment. So
I do have a question. Dr. Legale, can you tell me how long your program's been in existence? I know that you have been involved with EIM for a long period of time, and the program is really robust, but I was just trying to get a picture of, you know, how long it's taken you to get that robust.
I think we started on campus here in 2015.
Okay.
I think is right. So it's been 3 years.
Okay.
And it only looks this way as of this semester, right? It keeps changing.
Right, and I think that that's an important piece that we hear from a lot of our programs is the fact that, and I love the way that Dr. Davison is doing it down at UK, is that, you know, you're piloting it, and then the idea is you're going to plug in sort of, whether it be each year or each semester, the next phase as it goes. And I see a lot of programs that are successful doing that sort of phased implementation. So I think that's something maybe for our audience to think about if they have a program or if they're trying to move their program from a bronze to silver or to gold level.
okay, we have another question from David Hawkins for both Kristen and Carrie. You mentioned you have GAs to support your programs. Can you talk about how the support for those GAs was secured and through what administrative groups?
Go ahead, Carrie.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the last part of that. Can you repeat that question for me?
Yes. How was the support for those GAs secured and through what administrative groups did you have to go through?
Okay, that's a good question. So I have been at the University of Kentucky now for 12 years. And so we've gone from having 7 GAs to having 6 GAs that we're carrying on, and so we do provide them a stipend, and of course it pays for their tuition, and they have to mark whenever they are enrolling in grad school and they're interested in a graduate assistant position, they have to mark us as something that they might be interested in doing. So Campus Recreation takes graduate assistants, we as Health and Wellness take graduate assistants, and then University Health Services, I think, has maybe 1 graduate assistant, and those would be sort of this area that we're talking about. And so we have carried 7, but now we have 6, and that really has to do with keeping our programs running. I have 2 fitness centers that have a lot of hours, and I could not run that without our GAs. And so those were already in place when I got here, but the funding obtained for those GAs does come from partly from our health plan. And so, as I mentioned, we have a self-funded health plan. And so if you chose to have UK benefits, then we try to keep those premiums low. And so if you are a person on the HMO, for example, you pay less than $30 a month for your premium. And then in turn, the wellness program offers programs and services for free or very low cost that helps keep people healthy, so it keeps them from charging a claim against that health plan. And so it makes good financial sense for the health plan to fund part of those GAs, and then they do the work for us. So they give us 20 hours a week. We pay their stipend. Everybody wins.
Absolutely. On our end, for the 3 GAs that I have now, 2 of them are funded through our department, and 1 is funded through Student Affairs, Student Health Services specifically. And that one came about because I went over and asked them if they would fund it. So, I think I had a pretty good rationale, and they do seem to really be supportive of the program. So that ended up working out well, and I'm going to pursue additional avenues within Student Affairs for additional funding for graduate students in the future.
I'll chime in a little bit here on something that I'm hearing from a lot of different programs, and that is, and I think you guys both spoke to it eloquently, but I want to sort of point it out a little bit more, is the fact that you're sort of justifying why, from a financial perspective, the program makes sense, right? I think that's really clear to see with the healthcare system, but I think it's also really clear to see when you look at a program doesn't have those assets. That's the same thing that we did at FGCU. Is we very early on started collecting data to use, not necessarily for publishable data in an IRB, but data that we could use to justify the benefit to our students, so that when we went to ask for additional funding or additional support, we had data to say, okay, these are the number of students that we went through. And as I've shared on some other calls and at some other meetings, the students going through our program at FGCU are the ones that the university is most concerned about losing and retaining, right? So it was that data that was the most meaningful to administration when we were looking for additional support for our Exercises Medicine on campus program. So I think you have to really look at your university culture and what is going to drive them to help to support that support your initiative, whether that be financial or human resources or otherwise.
That's the word I hear all the time from our student affairs people is retention.
Mm-hmm.
We want to demonstrate retention, student retention. So that's something that we are working on.
Yep, and so I would like to add to that, just wherever you are, if you can connect the dots for administrators and speak their language. So I know on our student side of things, we've got surveys and all sorts of focus group data that say students want fitness, they want well-being, they want to be healthier, and we have the same thing on the employee side. We do a giant engagement survey every 2 years that shows the same thing. So if we can connect those dots for administrators and say, this is what they want, and we're going to provide it, and this is the benefit it's going to be to you, if you can connect those dots, whether it's financial or just in retention or just in whatever it is that your population is wanting, then I think you're going to go a long way.
Mm-hmm. But I think Dr. Legale, you were very articulate with this, right? We know this, and you both were, right? We know this as health and fitness professionals. It's sort of a no-brainer to us. So I think we just need to be very thoughtful when we go to administration, and to your point, talking their language, but very clearly connecting the dots that if it was just a group of fitness people, you would never have to make those dots connected because it's sort of more intuitive to the way that we think. So do we have other questions?
We do. So Matt is a faculty member at a small 2-year college. They have very little staff to help out with EIMOC initiatives, so he organizes and facilitates most events by himself. They've had great success with EIMOC efforts since the program was initiated last year. This question is, does anyone have ideas of events that may be able to be facilitated easily on a small scale for someone in his situation?
I'll jump in. I'll jump in first. My initial thought is, first of all, kudos, way to go. I think a lot of people who have started their EIM program feel like they're swimming alone in the deep end of the pool kind of thing. So keep up the good work and keep it moving forward. One place that you might want to look, coming off the ACSM Health and Fitness Summit last year, was that community members are interested, health and fitness community members are interested in getting involved in exercises medicine in general. And sometimes it's harder for them to create those programs within the community, but if they can start to become affiliated with a university and how the university is doing it, it leads some credibility to what they're trying to do outside of the university. So from a resources perspective, I would sort of challenge you to reach out into your community and find like-minded health fitness professionals that may be interested in sort of helping you to move some of these events forward. As far as events, I don't know off the top of my head. I'm hoping that the other speakers have something to say on that one.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it because, and something pops into my head, and I think, yeah, that's going to take some effort, though. So I totally understand where he's coming from, and that is a challenging question. Carrie?
Yeah. So one of the things that we do, because like I said, our potential population is 30,000 people, and they're everywhere. So retirees can be anywhere. We have employees in all 120 counties in the state. And so we're certainly not getting everywhere. So we try to do as many things as we can online. So we try to broadcast live via Zoom. If we're going to do a lunch and learn or a webinar series or anything like that, we try to broadcast that via Zoom. We try to do a lot of Facebook Live so that we can get to as many people as possible. That way they can even do it on the go. They don't have to be sitting at their computer. They can be in their car and have it going, and they can still listen while they're driving. So we try to do as much online as possible. We have piloted some online group fitness classes. That's a different conversation for a different day, but we have piloted some online classes as well. We've done some YouTube videos as far as exercise goes, or how to properly foam roll, or how to properly squat, how to properly stretch. So I think as much as you can do online, you're going to just get a greater audience, and you're going to be able to reuse that content often.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Is to that's sort of why this webinar series was started, so that we could sort of capture some of this data and then reshare it in a more efficient way. So I think that might be the answer for some of what you're doing if you're a one-man band, so to speak.
All right, Megan says thanks to both Carrie and Kristen for your presentations, and then Kristen, for you. Outside of the training program, she'd like to know, how many other student events does your EIMOC program run, and how do you advertise and encourage campus-wide participation?
That's actually a piece we're working more on too. We probably, our pill bottle pop-ups, we don't even advertise. We just show up somewhere, and we do those a couple times a year. So a couple times this semester maybe. And talks on campus. So I'd say probably, I would say outreach and education is not the biggest part of our program. And that's something that we really actually want to increase. Right now, we're a little different probably than some universities because it's so much focus on the referral. We do try to do those in order to engage our students as much as possible, but a couple times a semester is probably the answer to that question. And the second part was, she asked how often.
Yeah, how often, and then how do you advertise?
Well, that is one of the things that being a registered student organization has helped with, is they have specific processes for advertising on the university calendar, for instance. And I also, our health promotion and wellness and campus recreation have that all set up. And luckily they're willing to help us with that. So if we want something advertised, they'll advertise it for us.
Great. We have one additional question. To follow up from David is, what do you envision as the best outcomes to use to evaluate EIM on-campus success?
So I'm going to jump in on that one because that is a great question, and one in which the committee is sort of mulling over and trying to decide, because I think that that's the biggest challenge. So I don't, as ACSM and as the Exercises Medicine on Campus Committee, we don't have a clear picture on what that is. We think that initially one thing that is vital to assess is the physical activity vital sign, right? So that would be one outcome variable that you would definitely be wanting to measure. But as far as anything else, I got nothing.
Yeah. The retention thing is, at least at a university, and we're trying to figure out how exactly to measure that. It may be, at least to start, as simple as, of the people that have participated in this program, how many of them are graduating from this university, sticking around and graduating from this university. And that's something that's simple to look at through graduation rates, and through the higher ups, for lack of a better word, right now. So that's one thing we're really toying with. How much is this impacting a student's willingness to stay and graduate from ISU?
Yeah, I think that that's a big challenge that's facing a lot of programs, is trying to figure that out. I think I do think it's figuring out what is the pain point, for lack of a better term, for your institution, and how to provide data to support that. Because on a fundamental level, if you don't have that, it's going to be harder to justify the additional support you might need as the program grows, right? Which will then allow you to look at other outcome variables as they come up.
As I'm thinking about this too, Kristen, you mentioned you have a lab, and it makes sense. We are also housed, our offices for wellness are housed in the Department of Kinesiology and Health Promotion. And so our GAs, of course, are usually KHP graduate students, but it would also make sense for us to partner up and create the EIM experience using students to run the lab and to do these sort of things. So I think if you can solve several problems at once, then that's going to be a helpful thing too, and you're going to get support then from all different sides.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. You've got to find out what the successful programs have identified what the problem is and figured out how to be part of the solution instead of part of the problem, in order to garner the support that they need to be successful on campus. So is that it for our questions? I think we're pretty close on our time right now. I want to thank the speakers on behalf of the Exercises Medicine on Campus Committee, as well as the American College of Sports Medicine, for sharing their experiences and their time with us today. We will be doing another webinar in January 10th at noon. And we are going to be talking about our registration and recognition process. We are updating that, trying to make it more efficient for both evaluation as well as for the individuals that are submitting their information. So we'll be doing that webinar then, so watch for the emails, and hopefully we'll see some of you folks on that call as well. Thank you all, and everyone have a great day and enjoy.